Miss Combos with Laura Nusa. Yahoo, and welcome back to Miss Combos with Laura Nusa. Have you ever wondered how the cards in Project Sekai are made? How something can go from this, then this, and eventually become a card that fans want to pull on in the gacha? As some of you might know, I have a deep appreciation for the card artwork in Project Sekai. And since I began playing the game in 2021, I've really enjoyed seeing how the art progression has changed and improved over the years. I really love the card artwork so much that a year ago I began a series of videos where I react to each card set released and take a closer look at the artwork released for each event. For myself, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to express my appreciation for what the Colorful Palette art team produces, and it makes me so happy to see other people having fun appreciating the artwork as well. A day ago, as of filming this video, Project Sekai held a special talk session hosted by Yuki Nakashima, the voice actress for Shiho Hinomori. In this talk session, which is up on the Japanese Project Sekai YouTube channel, we got to hear from the producer of the game, Kondo Yuichiro, who, fun fact, also served as a producer for Bandori prior to Project Sekai. Adachi Naoki from Krypton Future Media was also present on this stream. He's a figure that we have seen in the past alongside Kondo Yuichiro in streams where UI or game features get discussed. This stream set to provide Project Sekai fans behind-the-scenes details about the development of Project Sekai's storyline, illustrations, the rhythm game, and more. Questions that were answered throughout the stream were submitted in advance, and I also did just make a short about the chart making process, but in this video I will be focusing on the card art creation. For this video, I will be using the translations provided by Project Sekai English, who took the time to summarize the nearly 2-hour long stream, so please go give them a follow if you aren't following them already. The illustration segment of the stream was led by art director Iizuka Kouhei. He began by summarizing the steps that the art team takes into the production of the illustrations. The first step is the character selection, then comes the costume production. After that, the front, back, and side of the costume drawings are done, and once the costumes are fully designed, then the rough drafts of the untrained and trained artwork can commence. After the card concept is finalized and then a clean copy of the character and background gets worked on, then comes adding the finishing touches to the artwork, then debugging the card artwork, and finally, the artwork is ready to be released. When it comes to selecting the characters to illustrate, the planners are actually the ones determining which characters will get a 4-star, 3-star, and 2-star card. For focus events, we know that automatically the focus character will be getting one of those 4-star cards. The other two characters that will receive a 4-star card are determined based on their involvement in the story and also the number of cards they already have. For example, in the case of the latest Mizuki 6 focus event, since we know that Enna plays a big role in Mizuki's story, she once again received a 4-star card in the Mizuki focus event. As for the virtual singer selection, they did go into detail about how they're chosen, so they do determine which virtual singer is actually present in the storyline. They also do take into consideration the number of cards that they have and the number of times they appear in songs. And now moving on to the costume production, since this is a very important part of the whole process. The costumes are created on 3 different elements. So the first element of the costume is how it's going to look like in the story, then we have the second element, which is the song, and the third and final element is how the costume will look in the 3D stage designing. So usually this process will take around a week or so, with 2 or 3 people working on the design of the costume. And once the costume is finalized, then the trained illustration drafts can begin now that the artists know what the characters will be drawn wearing. Rough drafts for the cards are created based on the stories and also what the artists wish to draw. In this example, we see 2 very different drafts or concepts for the Iizuka card, but during the stream they did mention that the art team usually creates about 9 or 10 rough drafts for each card that we see in the game. While these 2 versions of the Iizuka card evoke her feeling of slight unfulfillment, ultimately the idea on the left was chosen, which highlighted her sense of preservation and self-assertion. They also shared this example with 2 very different interpretations of Saki's this card artwork. Since these drafts were complete opposites and the ideas actually ended up clashing, ultimately the art team had to choose which idea actually fit the narrative of the story better, and that being the artwork that has the bird's eye view of Saki and Ichika. I personally think that the concept on the right that features Saki looking like she's emerging from a battle to be very powerful, but I can see how the chosen concept actually fit the narrative of her focus event a lot better. In other cases, the cards don't actually have much of a connection to the actual story itself, like in the More Jump streamer set. For this particular card set, the art team just wanted to show a different side of the idols through the card artwork. They wanted to portray idol fan service through the card set, which is actually a very common thing in idol culture. And just to make it very clear for people not familiar with idol culture, when I say fan service, I am not talking about anime fan service that often present female characters in barely their outfits and doing suggestive poses. In Japanese idol culture, fan service consists of holding real-life events as well as live streams for the fans. This is an opportunity for fans to interact with their favorite idols, and they often get to see them sign photo prints or chekis, which is the Japanese word for a Polaroid instant photograph that idols like to decorate. The examples that I'm showing on the screens are from Fruit Zippers and Cutie Street streams. Both are very popular J-pop idol groups at this moment, so this is what they mean when they say fan service. So now going back to the Haruka card, from this perspective, we're watching our favorite idol streaming, and basically we're among the other fans in the chat. This card set also provided a new challenge for the artists since they got to play with pixel art, which they hadn't done prior. Now let's take a look at An's fourth focus event, Light Up the Fire. This is the story where An learns that Nagi has passed away and that everyone in Vivid Street knew about it except for her and Vivid Bad Squad. Because of that, artists wanted to convey how strong of a presence Nagi has on An's life. The artist did struggle with the idea of how much they wanted to include in the final card and how they wanted to interpret Nagi's presence. Now let's take a look at the two ideas that they had. The idea on the right was actually considered a little too abstract, and the concept on the left felt more right, but they ultimately ended removing the angel wings. If we compare it to the final card, the gates behind An still resemble angel wings, but it's not a literal interpretation of angel wings. Now moving on to Nene's card, the main thing that the artist wanted to convey was how Nene was moving forward. So the concept on the left ended up conveying those feelings a lot better. Seeing Nene walk forward on her own gave off a lonely and transient vibe, as if she could be gone in any second. Iizuka-san also mentioned that the background for this card was heavily influenced by the commissioned song Hakoniwa no Koral and the music video for the song. So in this case, the commissioned song was very influential in the end product of the card illustration. In this stream, they also spoke about the Bloomfest Kanave card, which has one of the most striking artwork we've seen so far in the game. So the focus of the card was meant to portray the relationship between Kanave and her father and the impact she has caused on him. We know that Kanave feels very guilty for causing the downfall of her father's health, and they wanted to illustrate that in this card. While the draft on the right was very cool looking with Kanave holding onto a skull and looking very distraught, the art team decided that the concept was quote-unquote a little too much for the game, so they ended up scrapping that idea and going with the concept on the left, which then turned into this card. So Kanave in the Bloomfest card is meant to portray the Grim Reaper. It's still very much visible in the card, you can see her staff, but it's overall a lot more subtle than the idea that they ended up scrapping. The last example that they showed on stream was Len's Valentine's Day card from earlier this year. The concept for Len's card and also the background was quite simple, and Iizuka-san mentioned that there really was nothing special to note about this particular artwork. The art team was just very determined to show off Len's back in this artwork, which honestly sounds very silly to say out loud, but I can definitely see why they focus so much on Len's back, because it was a very different costume for a male character. The end result did look really cool, and if you saw my card reaction video, then you know that I really enjoyed the gothic vampire set that we got for Valentine's Day. In the next segment, they talked over the production process and also explained the difference in process between the untrained and trained cards. In untrained cards, they present a character choice which ends up up depicting a scene in the story. The writing team is actually the one that will specify what scene will be depicted, which is why we see the untrained artwork in the story. For the trained card artwork, we have the chosen character featuring the costume design and rough drafts that are done. It seems like there's more creative freedom when it comes to the trained card artwork from what I was able to tell, but we already discussed some of the examples with the art team's thought process. So now let's chat about clean copy. I feel like for aspiring artists, you might find this very interesting. The way the character illustrations come together is through this clean copy process. So this process includes a lot of back and forth feedback and corrections. It begins with a detailed draft, then we have a draft that is colored. It might be looking a little bit flat in this stage, but after that, line art and base colors get added, and then finally the shadows are added. As for the backgrounds, there is a specific team that handles the creation of the backgrounds. After discussing the direction of the cards, the background team will then begin working on the backgrounds for the cards. Some of the things that they consider are what kind of image the card will give off, the atmosphere, as well as adding important motifs into the background, and finally the light source. The background team use a variety of references when designing the background art. Some of the references that they use include the related stories, songs, and also the 3D stage that will get designed. It was also noted that the writing team sometimes do request specific backgrounds from the background team to include within the stories. For example, that's when we get backgrounds of the school, towns, and also each of the characters' rooms. If you want to see examples of the clean copy process, which refines the card artwork, they showed 2 examples from the 4th anniversary banner, which is one of my all-time favorite card artwork. I thought the composition, the use of light and shadow, the flowers illustrated, and also the motifs that were added in the card, they all just worked in harmony. So on the left, we have a full colored version of Aidi's card. Then we have a little bit more shading and dimension added to the card. Finally, we have the final card artwork, which is fully rendered and has the light source above Aidi's head, which causes this magical prismatic lighting effect that you see in the artwork. Then we have Nene's card, which already looked very detailed in this clean copy version, but the door is a darker wood color, which definitely contrasts a lot with Nene in my opinion. In the second clean copy shown, we see that the door color is now much lighter, and the colors overall are much more muted. In my eyes, this has a much more cohesive color palette, and it makes Nene the focus of the card instead of distracting the eyes with other bright pops of color in the flowers. The final product is something where all the elements work in harmony. The lighting is soft and diffused, the flowers look beautiful, and Nene looks very natural within this rustic atmosphere. Lastly, after combining the character and background illustrations, the art team then begins to work on the finishing touches. For releasing the card, several things are checked, such as color leaks, faint lines, if things are out of place in the cards, the motifs, and they also check if there are any discrepancies between the illustration, the 3D costume, and the live 2D models. If you're interested in learning more about the illustrations and the thought process behind each of the elements in a card, Colorful Palette discussed these in more detail on their blog. You can find several interviews with the artists discussing several card sets. I actually even went through one of those interviews in this channel where we took a closer look at the end of 5 cards. If you're interested in that video as well as the Colorful Palette blog, I will link both of them in the description. The website is in Japanese, but many web browsers are able to translate the website and articles to English. They're definitely worth the read if you're interested in the Project Sekai artwork. And that is it for this video. I hope you found the process of illustrating the cards as interesting as I did. Although I am not talented at art whatsoever, I've always enjoyed looking and analyzing artwork because good art conveys a lot of emotion and it can also inspire conversation. While not every single piece of art has to carry a deep and emotional meaning, even bright and fun art can help lift someone's mood and evoke emotion in a different way. I really enjoyed getting to have fun with Project Sekai and appreciate the game in a very different way. I know the rhythm game is what most people focus on, but for casual gamers, I do want them to feel more comfortable with appreciating the game and also participating in the fandom in a different way. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to my channel if you're brand new, and I will see you all soon in my next video. Thank you all so much for watching or listening. Bye bye!